Good morning. I hope everybody that listens is keeping well. Wanted to bore you with some of my perspectives. I've been reading a little bit about Platonism and about original Buddhism. I've also read a little bit about the Upanishads. I've read more recent stuff like A.K. Kuroswamy and Ken Wheeler. And what I get from it, if you were to ask me, can you summarize what is that you've been reading? I would say these ontologies, these philosophies are for the purpose of sharpening one's mind. That's it. Analogically speaking, almost like an artist, a sculpture. He gets a big rock in front of him and he starts, chiseling, cutting the edges, sharpening this, cutting there, and eventually it will arrive at the final product. I've seen a picture recently of this amazing statue. The sculpture was able to turn rock into this invisible veil that was in front of the face of this woman, and it was so realistic that wow, you actually can do that with rock. Amazing. And these things that I've been reading, it's similar. It's for the purpose of education and for the purpose of sharpening your mind. Now, how these things became a religion, I'm not amazed because not everybody, will get it, I guess, or will get it in a different way. I mean, we all see through different, glasses. Everybody looks through, as a different, perspective. And the majority, sees these things as a religion. And it's funny how you can feel it, when you're reading, when you are in the presence of the original and in the presence of what came after, the sectarian. And they have these romanticized stories about, you know, the cult or the people involved and everything. You're kind of laughing. It's always the same origin story. It's almost like reading, um, uh, a comic book or a manga book. It's all about the origin story of the hero and his life, what he achieved, and his, more importantly, his death and his ascension to divinity. And you're like laughing for the most of the parts. There will be some people. I mean, I'm not saying I'm special, but I don't know. That's what I got from it, and there will be people who understands it for what it is, I suppose, and others will run with it like like a superhero. They will run these and will miss completely the purpose. It was educational purpose, and they turn it into a cult, a sectarian cult full of rules and regulations, And if you want to, achieve illumination, you have to do this, this, and that, and money is involved, and I don't know. It's just funny and terrible at the same time. So it could become a very terrible thing. I mean, anyway, I was listening to the internet, and this creature that I can't even remember her name. She's the head of the, you know, bullshit department of facts and figures. And she was talking about censorship and talking in the analogy of the Jews. She was saying, we have to inoculate Jews into these platforms before they become infected and before the infection spreads. that sort of thing. And I was looking at that. I mean, wow! Look at how tyranny, how tyranny operates. They see these platforms, as an adversary. Absolutely, they are so afraid of these platforms because they eventually are losing, control over the narratives. The ones who don't have a sharp mind, they get easily bamboozled by a controlled media. But now that the media is out of control, these leaders are so afraid that they might lose control, and the sheep, might become awakened. Oh no, we can't have that. It was, it was. I was listening, and chills, you know. I was having chills. And I was like, ooh, look, look, look. So nasty the way she was talking, to prevent from spreading, and we have to, you know, inoculate it with some juice and da 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 ding da 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 da. The mentality, the mental machinations, and the construct. And I could see, oh, that's totally messed up. That's not how the world really is. But in the mind of tyranny, yes, that's how the world ought to be. Everybody should be, inoculated. It's crazy. That's what it is. Um, Religion. Why do they have? Why do they resort to religion? Because how would they convince the sheep to do things against their interests? Religion is perfect for that. Ideology, religion. You will convince them to hurt themselves. You would convince the masses to do things against their own interests. And religion has this weird effect that the people who get possessed by it will do it of their own accord. So it's almost like it was their idea. So these so-called leaders are all immune to the things that they suggest it. They whisper these things that, you see, they suggest them, and they make the population fear. Fear is one of the biggest, catalysts. They So they will do things against their own interests, and made believe it's their own idea. No, it was your idea. You wanted this, not us. And it's like the saying, they give them enough rope so they can hang themselves. And that's what's going on. Religion, that's what it is. That's what it is. When there's something, popular, when there's something interesting, it gets immediately coerced and co-opted and destroyed from within. So it serves, the purposes of the evil, you know. All right, so I think I'm going to shut up now. Have a nice day.